The Leave Your Legacy podcast is supported by Wise Financial. Wise Financial is a Northwestern Mutual private client group member. For over 20 years, Wise Financial has dedicated its efforts to designing comprehensive wealth management strategies for business owners and many accomplished athletes. Through their efforts, Wise Financial has been recognized as an industry-leading firm. The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Hello and welcome to the Leave Your Legacy podcast. I'm Kenyon Murray, your host, and today we have, I feel, a very special update to one of the things that is very, very important to me, to my family, and it is the Brightn project, which Jeff Johnston has so graciously included our family in. Right now, it's in the beta testing, data gathering portion of its launch, and so we really want to do an update as far as what we're trying to get, what the future looks like for Brightn, and kind of some really, really jaw-dropping data that's starting to come up when you talk about Gen Z and mental wellness. And so with that, I want to say welcome to the show, Jeff Johnston, CEO, president of the Living Undeterred Project, and I don't know, you got so many titles. It's all, but we can say that you retired from your investment title. So
I did.
Yeah. So now it's that next journey for you. So just starting off, Jeff, with the launch of Brightn, like what's really going on right now? When was it launched? Kind of give our viewers an idea of where we are in this launch.
Yeah, well, first, Kenyon, thank you for being on the show, or for me being on your show. I host a podcast as well, so sometimes I say it wrong. But Leave Your Legacy, how appropriate is that? I mean, that's really what I'm focused on right now, is what my legacy would be. And you know, I had the honor to be in the investment career for 34 years as the founder and owner of Premier Investments of Iowa, which you at some point worked with us. And our paths crossed so many times over the years, you know, back when you played for Iowa and my dad was the doctor. But so here we are. You know, a lot has happened since. I decided, because of a personal situation with our oldest son, Seth, who passed away from fentanyl poisoning. At the age of 23, you coached Seth and knew him quite well, and you were there during our struggle as a family. And the perception of the public was, here's this gentleman who's successful and, you know, has this thriving practice. And what people didn't know is behind the scenes, it, like probably every family in the United States and around the world, you know, I was an alcoholic myself, had a gambling addiction as well, but we also had a child that was struggling with mental illness. And I missed a lot of signs. I missed a lot of things I could have done. I try not to go down that road, Kenyon. It's not productive to sit around saying I should have been a better dad, or what could I have done differently? But there certainly is a learning lesson in all this, right? So that's what we did. So when our son passed away, you know, I decided to really make changes in my life. And now we're coming up on 6 years from the anniversary of his death, and we launched Brightn a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, I know you and I talked a lot about what Brightn was going to look like in the early stages. And it was just a piece of paper, you know, like a lot of things, you know, you know, and you can't do anything by yourself. Anything, like I always tell my boys, if you want to change the world, run around with people that are.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Find the people that want to change the world, and then just learn from them, collaborate with them, work with them, however you can. And so that really where this whole idea of Brightn came about. And so when you guys got involved, it was a formality, to be honest with you. You know, our families are too connected.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it's part of your story though. You know, you don't want to, you have to talk about it, you know, how, you know, the journey to get to this point. And obviously the journey is, we still got a long way to go when it comes
Never
to
ends, right?
what we're, absolutely, what we're trying to, you know, we want to be in a preventative state when it comes to mental wellness. And I think, you know, for us, obviously being as close as we are, it was a no-brainer for us to be involved. But I think what's more important is what Brightn can do for Gen Z. We know that is a generation that's in a lot of ways lost and needs some guidance. So what, you know, from your perspective, what is Brightn potentially going to do for Gen Z?
Well, let's talk about Gen Z. A lot of people aren't aware of the statistics. They're the largest generation in human history. 1/3 of the world's population. So, I mean, they're massive.
Mm-hmm.
They are by far the most anxious, depressed, lost generation of all time. So we have this dynamic where we have this massive generation coming up behind us, and they need some inspiration. They need hope. And the problem is everything's based on fear and scarcity today. So all these kids see today is global warming and mom and dad fighting over Trump and Biden and plastics in the ocean and world hunger and flooding, and just everything is just magnified. And, when I was younger, I'm like 7 years older than you, we didn't know about things. We just knew what was happening on our street. Right. And so things weren't as catastrophic. And today kids have this massive lens, and the way the algorithms are set up too. Yeah. Once a child clicks on a link and sees a fight in Walmart, they're sent 100 fights, or a cop pulls somebody over and there's a confrontation. Then they're sent 100 of them. And the kids don't understand that that's the design of social media today. So what we wanted to do with Brightn is take the thing that I thought I was best at, that was financial advising. I did for so many years, and introduce kids, young adults, to this idea of mental wellness planning, like we did financial plans with adults.
Yep.
And if we did that, then what would be my asset classes? That was something I toyed with,
Yeah.
And so I went back, thought, okay, when I managed money for people, we did stocks, bonds, real estate, right? That was kind of your core asset classes. I thought, what would be the asset classes in mental wellness for kids? And then, the easy one is health, right? Mind, body, soul, right? Your faith or your exercise, going to the gym, eating healthy. There's a million apps out in the market. And the second one wasn't that hard either, and that was meaning and purpose, when you get up in the morning, what's the inspiration? What drives you? It's got to be more than just money or views or follows. It's got to be something that, that it's in your essence, in your soul. And that was not bad too, right? And I thought, man, what's number 3?
Right.
So what I did is I started immersing myself in going to listen to podcasts, mental health podcasts, reading books, any webinar I could go to. And there was just one glaring thing that was just never discussed, the elephant in the room, and that was a relationship with money, wealth. And so we came up with health, wealth, and purpose. And wealth really, Kenyon, isn't just your 401k, right? You and I talk about this all. It's wealth of knowledge. It's wealth of relationships. It's wealth of learning, It's I think when kids, you say finance, they think money. You say wealth, they may still think money, but at least we can start educating him that wealth's a lot more than that, right?
Yeah.
And so those are our 3, what I call optimal asset classes of the Brightn app. And our whole thing is introduce them to this idea of mental wellness planning, focusing on these 3 areas of optimal mental wellness, which would be health, wealth, and purpose. And it's a challenge. And the challenge, Kenyon, is their attention.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have it.
Yeah. And the attention thing too, like when you talk about you click on one video and that feed, it's easy. I mean, it's easy to consume that, but when you have to intentionally, whether it's answer a question or do something that's, like you said, it's going to affect your, mental wellness, physical wellness, whatever it is, like that's a little bit more challenging. So, so the way things are positioned when it comes to, helping and preventing and things like that, it has to be done in a certain way. And I really like that idea of how you've done it. You've taken what you in the past viewed as success with your financial company and looked at, okay, what are those 3 things? And to be able to break it down in 3 things is really cool, because something like this, people would think like, I got to do 15 different things to be able to do it. But now you've kind of condensed it, maybe not simplified it, but you've condensed it in something that's really, they can really absorb it, take it in.
Well, we have to make it simple, Again, this attention span thing is a big issue. It takes, I think you know this through sports, is it takes like 66 days of routine to change a behavior, change a habit, or install a new habit that's productive. Kids don't have 66 seconds today, so that's one big challenge we had. But the testing that we've done, it's been out now a couple of weeks. We're in 9 countries right now, which is exciting. Wow. Yeah. I mean, Singapore has 1, but it still counts as a country.
It's a country. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's validation that there is some interest out there, and we're at the what's called the pre-seed stage. So we're out looking for investors. We're raising money. When we get the pre-seed closed, we'll be able to move into version 1, which is exciting because then we can start adding a lot more video content, make it a little more interactive. We're being intentional in not making this a social media company. Right. I mean, a social media aspect company where kids are connecting with each other. And there's enough of that. We're not trying to compete with TikTok and Instagram.
Right.
But there are parts of Brightn where kids can see the successes of other kids in a positive way, not in a way that makes them feel like, oh, Kenyon got 100 points today. I didn't. I sat on the couch.
Yeah.
We don't want kids to, get into comparing other kids' successes. But it's nice to know kids are using the app and improving their lives. And at the end of the day, I've said this before when I talk to kids or talk to teachers that we're not trying to addict kids. We don't want to get kids on the app 8 hours a day. Right. That is the problem that we're fighting against. So it's not your time on Brightn, Kenyon. It's your timing of Brightn.
Right.
And I
like that.
I think the first, I was going to say 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Can't get 30 minutes on a kid because they wake up with 2 minutes to go till school starts.
Right.
So if we can get the first 5-10 minutes of every morning for kids to open up their mind like they do their drapes, and it's sunny and bright, and they got some little pep in their step, and they have a meaning and purpose, then we have a chance the rest of the day to get their attention. But if they wake up and they get on their phone and they're on TikTok and they open those drapes and it's rainy and cold and cloudy, you're fighting uphill all day long. And so when I'm presenting it to parents, I'm like, we don't want your kid on Brightn for a long time during the day, but it's imperative that they're on it during the right times of the day. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and the thing is too, is it's, you said like the right time of the day, like it's a resource. In so many different ways. It's a resource that they can use, and it's a place where they can go, where they can feel comfortable, where, a lot of times we know this, like communications face to face.
Yeah.
Gen Z is not great at
they don't give eye contact.
Face-to-face communication. But if they're able to go somewhere where they can get guidance or, get whatever it is that, that their answers and their input into the resource gives them back, I think that's something that can give them a feeling of, okay, I'm not the only one that's going through this. There's other people and there's resources out there that can help me. I think that resources are out there, but the way they're positioned for kids, it can be daunting.
Oh, absolutely.
To, call someone and ask someone for help when they're feeling that way. So,
they get judged. Yeah. There's stigma. Oh, you're not, tough through it. Like the old Bobby Knight mentality. It's like, toughen up. That better than anybody. It's like, get past this. You're stronger than that. Quit being a baby. It's like, especially for teenage men today, it's really difficult. To be masculine during this day and age is difficult for young men. But at the same time, we want them to cry as well, right?
Right, yeah.
So and I'm not downplaying. It's the hardest time to be a young teenage woman or a woman as well.
Yeah.
With all the issues with that. So I think if you go back to in history with humans, that this is this is the hardest time to be a kid.
Yeah.
Bar none, it's the hardest time. But here's the good news, Kenyon, and this is really, really good news. And I think for people watching this, we've talked quite a bit about some of the problems, but the great news is Gen Z is the first generation in history to have their number one New Year's resolution be mental wellness. Yeah, and Kenny, when I saw that early in I don't remember where I saw it. It's in my notes, but when I first saw that, I thought, okay, the largest generation of all time. They're the most depressed, anxious, and lost generation, yet they're the first generation to wave the white flag. To say, you know what, mom and dad, it's okay. Yeah. I want to talk about this stuff. 37% increase year over year of Gen Z getting mental health treatment. But here's the bad news. It ain't working. Everything across the board, statistically, 5 years, 10 years, 2 years is worse than it was.
Yeah.
Suicide rates are the highest they've been in 50 years for young adults. Their ERs are having 9, 10, 11-year-olds coming in with attempted suicide. When I was that age, that wasn't even an option on the table.
No.
We didn't know anyone.
No.
Now it's like I was telling someone the other day, I was interviewing a dad on my podcast whose son, Ryan, took his own life at 14.
Yeah.
As I'm doing that, I get a DM on Facebook from another person whose son, 14, took his own life. All in a matter of seconds. And it's like, I try to stay positive. I am trying to stay optimistic, and I'm going into tears now, going in to interview a dad. And I just want to stand up and punch walls. I get that frustrated because we're in a world of so much abundance.
Yeah.
There's so much good out there, but the kids aren't seeing it. And it's our job as parents. And I know you've done a great job with your kids and trying to keep them away from toxicity, and their friend group is key. And what they watch and read and hear is so important in their development. And then you throw in things like vaping and alcohol and marijuana. It's like, parents, and teachers, and we have a tough proposition ahead of us. It's going to be hard, but I've never been more confident in my entire lifetime in the mental health Gen Z aspect right now. And I think Brightn can be a part of it. It can add to it, but we need so many other things that we got to start working on to right this ship, or we're going to be leaving. We won't be leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
And I think, if that doesn't drive you to make changes, I don't know what would.
Yeah. The thing is, like at 14 so we live in a world of abundance.
Yeah.
We live in a world of access. We have more access
than we need,
than we've ever had. We're connected, so to speak, connected to more people than we've ever been connected to in human history, but we're also much more disconnected, I believe, as well. And when you have, it's just hard for me to fathom that at 14, you feel that the only option for you is to either attempt or to take your own life. Like, that's really sad. And I think it just goes to just the disconnectedness that's within our world, whether it's in families. And mention it, like, we work a lot. We're always busy. And so there, I know, not to blame you or anything like that, but we all miss signs at different times about different things. And so, it's, and the thing that even makes it to me even worse is, like, we used to talk about it takes a village to raise a child, and we have more people that are willing to stand on the sideline and not say anything,
right,
and continue to see this pattern where we're losing, our kids.
Well, let me jump on that a second. I'm happy you brought that up because I had forgotten about this big statistic that we were talking about right before the show started. We did a pilot school, a pilot study. We took Brightn in. We presented it to some faculty at a school. I won't name the school. And we got a survey back. We had the teachers, the faculty fill out survey, and we've got about 100 back. Kenyon, I looked at the first results we started at looking at everything. It was 52% of the teachers at this school did not want to have conversations about mental health with their kids. Half the teachers. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, I know right now that 70% of kids in the United States, 70% of adults live paycheck to paycheck. That means 70% of those households have financial struggles. Right. Those kids are coming to school, they're struggling, they're hurting. Kids, I think 2 in 10 middle schoolers are vaping today. Wow. So these kids are coming from broken families. Divorce rates are at all-time high. You got bankruptcies and recessions, and it's tough. It's hard to make money in this day and age. These kids are coming to school already behind the 8-ball, and then half of the teachers in that environment don't want to have these discussions, and the reasons are very legitimate. Triggering. They don't want to bring up suicide because maybe it triggers a kid. Liability for themselves and for the school, and just they don't know what to say. It's like, I remember when Seth died, and then when my wife passed away, people didn't know what to say. And you guys did. We're friends. You came up and, how you doing, Jeff? Wasn't that hard? But I remember before I had all this happen, I didn't know what to say to someone like Mike and Patty. I didn't know what to say to them. When Chris passed, it's like, what do you say? So I think these conversations need to be had so we can have these conversations with these kids. There's no template out there. There's no right or wrong. I think the wrong is not talking about these things.
Right. Yeah.
And if the numbers were getting better, and I saw numbers really improving, Brightn wouldn't even had been an idea in my head. And probably the thing that really makes me the most irritated, and I know we have a limit on the show, but is what we prescribe for drugs to kids. We live in this reductionist mindset where I think as humans, we have to have answers for everything. So if a kid looks out the window or he sweats a little bit or he fidgets a little bit, oh, wait a minute, sounds like me. Sounds like you. He's like, all of a sudden they have a disorder, right?
Right.
Take him to the doctor. Yep. Doctor's got 15 minutes to see you because they got 80 people on their list. And they prescribe Adderall, right? Oh, that's what I did. So I did to Seth.
Yeah.
And I have to take that to my grave, and I say that dramatically, but I really do. But what is Adderall? I researched it, I understood it, and now it's like maybe Adderall would have been okay, but why was it the first option? Why couldn't you meditate it?
Right.
I don't know his sugar intake.
Yeah.
I didn't ask him those questions. I didn't look at his diet. I didn't see what time he was going to bed at night. I didn't know what he was watching on social media. These are signs I missed, Kenyon, as a dad, that now I have that knowledge. I have this information I learned from all this, put it into Brightn with your help and all the other people that are on our board and helping. And now I ask the public to try it, have your kids try it, get back with us, email us. We have an aspect on the app where you can give us some input. We want to make it better. I know right now the version out there will be the worst version ever because it can only get better, right? I mean, that's my mindset. The first is the worst.
Yeah.
And if kids get into it and they're not getting the dopamine hit or the serotonin hit and they're thinking, oh, this is too clinical, well, let us know.
Yeah.
I want this to work. I mean, I'm in this forever. This is not my retirement plan. This is my life. And there's a lot of me out there. You're one of them. I could go on. And the fact that you're spending a whole show on this topic is awesome. And I think more people need to step up to have a big presence and have these conversations. I mean, until it hits home, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You lose your own child, all of a sudden you become an advocate, and it doesn't have to happen that way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I mean, and the thing you said, like, okay, like I'm going back to the teacher thing.
Yeah.
This is what popped into my head from last year. Is as a basketball coach of young women, one of the things that happened last year was an instance where I emotionally wasn't, at the time, I felt capable of coaching these young women. And I actually, which there was a lot of controversy around it, but I left the bench because in that moment I knew, because of some things that I later told the girls, I wasn't capable of being, I guess, the best version of myself when they needed it in that realm, in the middle of the game. And so the best part about being on a coaching staff is you have a staff and you have other coaches. And I was able to step away. And I have to credit my coaches because the girls didn't notice I was gone for like half the quarter.
Is that good or bad, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully it's good. But the next day I came back in and had that conversation with them. And it was one of those things where I felt like I needed to let them know that it's okay not to be okay sometimes.
Yeah, I bet they respected you for that.
Yeah, and I caught some heat from a couple of people, which really didn't bug me at all because I'm very comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
But, I think for someone as a teacher who probably sees these girls more than I do during the week, to say that they don't want to talk about it, I think for me, and this is just me being personal, it has nothing to do with the teachers, but I feel like that is a cop-out because I feel like as a teacher, you take on a certain role, as a coach, take on a certain role. We always said, the parents can only be there so much, and we're adults in their lives. I feel like that, to me, and this is just a personal belief of mine, is like, that's a cop-out, for that. Because even if you don't know what to say, it doesn't take much to at least show empathy and put your arm around them, tell them it's going to be okay. And then maybe reach out to somebody that can help them in a more professional way. But I think to say that they don't want to talk about it because of fear of this or that, I just feel like that's a cop-out at a time when our kids need it more than ever.
Well, we're hoping Brightn can be that bridge. I mean, if I'm a teacher and a kid comes to school and they have these things pent up and I'm aware of Brightn as a teacher and I've checked it, I vetted it, I'm comfortable with it, and the school endorses it. We have a donor program where we're allowing donors, like you and I to help, pay for the licensing for this. Yeah. So kids can have it for free. The teacher can say, well, maybe try this. It's not the end all be all, but it's better than just saying, I don't want to talk about it. I mean, and that's I think what drives me is not perfection, but just options. Meditation's a good thing. I every morning it's important for me to meditate. Breathing is important. We teach kids, how to dribble and shoot and all that, but how about just breathing? Watch some of these the high level sporting events. Like, you see the players at the goalpost, I know Luca Garza was really big into talking about meditation.
Yeah,
I think Chris and Keegan do that now, right?
A little bit. Yeah. A little
But
bit.
these are things that you just can do that are free, non-clinical. You don't have to go on drugs. It's provided through, God or evolution, whatever you want to call it. It's something that is so simple to do. And again, going back to that first 10 minutes of the day for kids, I keep going back to that now, and I'm going to really start getting more aggressive about talking about this. You got to get kids in the habit to wake up, and if it's even in their own bed, just to, put their fingers together, feel that energy, touch their toes together, just feel your body. It's breathing, it's alive. Life's beautiful. And not grab your phone and go to TikTok and start seeing, these skinny models driving Lamborghinis. And next thing you know, you're like, well, my life sucks. Yeah, right. It's like, but adults do the same thing, Kenyon.
Yeah, I know.
I used to jump on and look at someone that had a bigger financial planning firm than me. And I'd say, well, geez, I suck. It's like,
I remember having those conversations. This person's here. This is where we're at. Yeah,
I know. And I was that guy. And then death came into my life and humbled me and reminded me that, we're not doing things the way they should be done. And I think we need to go back to some maybe old ways that we did things as humans and bet on those instead of trying to take more pills and more labels and more diagnosis and more quick fix. And today everything's just now. And you didn't get your mental health poor in 66 seconds.
Right.
You're not going to get out of it in 66 seconds.
Yeah, it's a constant build. And so
Brightn is not going to be for everybody. I'm sure kids are going to get on it and they may get bored. But I know right now, and you do too, we talk about this frequently, 1 in 5, think about this, 1 in 5, and I'm just talking about American kids today, are in serious mental health crisis mode as I'm speaking right now. So if you're a mom and dad and you've got 5 kids, one of them is in very, very bad shape right now. And you may either know it or you don't. Or take a photograph of 5 kids at a graduation or at a wedding or anything, and the smiley faces. And there's 2 of them maybe considered suicide that morning. We need to understand the demographics of this problem. And so I don't have to go out and sell too much the problem. It's like, what's the solution, Jeff? And we think Brightn, and that's why your family got involved. And we're excited to build this thing out, but I need help. We need help in regards to people trying it, getting feedback, and then obviously to grow, we need investors. I mean, that's the unfortunate reality of all this. Is I've got to this place as far as I can on my own. I've bootstrapped this initiative. You guys are actively involved in it as well, and we were very grateful for that. But for someone out there that maybe isn't a foot soldier, but you've got the resources, I'll do the work for you. We'll do the work for you. So that's my ask today, Kenyon, is, we need people that really want to make a difference. And like I said, to really change the world, you got to run with people that are, and they're out there. Yeah. I know they are. Yeah. And the kids want it. The kids, it's the most fascinating generation. Gen Z is, look what they've accomplished at such young ages, Kenyon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing the success the kids are having at such incredible young ages that I wasn't successful at 20.
The options are limitless now. And we talked about it I've talked about it on other podcasts, like just the ability to turn your passion into a profession, and be rewarded, whether it's, whatever they're looking for. But we're at a different time in the world. But I think, like you said, this is going to take a lot of people. It's going to take people, like you said, foot soldiers. It's going to take people that have resources. And I think too, like for the adults that watch this, it's important for even them to download the app and go through the app, because even though we say it's targeted for Gen Z, there's something that can be learned by each and every one of us by going through that. And it may be something that we think is very frivolous, but it's something that can help us as adults as well. And I encourage, adults to download the app and go through it, or at least go through it with your kid. I just feel like the more things we can do like this together with our kids, it's going to make a difference.
Let me ask you a question. Yeah. I'll ask you a question.
Okay.
So if you're talking to a group of kids, which you do frequently, and somebody says, hey, Kenyon, how do I find purpose in my life? I'm 17 years old. How do I find purpose in my life? How do you answer that question?
The way that I've actually approach that question is it's kind of bad, but it's with another question. What makes you happy?
Mm.
And I throw that back on them. Like, tell me something that you do whenever you do it makes you happy.
Something personal, right?
Yeah. What makes you happy? For some people, like I'll just say as a coach, you know, I've had people like, I love playing basketball, right? Okay, so what can you do with that? Okay, so you love playing basketball, that you feel like that gives you purpose. Well, basketball can lead you to so many different things. Basketball led me here.
Good point.
It may not be, someone may look at me and say, well, how did basketball lead you here? Well, basketball allowed me to, one, come to Iowa City.
Yeah.
And make Iowa my home. You look at the opportunities that I got as a player on and off the floor.
Right.
You look at the opportunities that I got, post playing when I did color commentary for the Big Ten Network and things like that. So if you look at all these little things that have led me to here, it started with the one thing that got me here, which was basketball.
Right.
So I look at like those things that make you happy can lead you to other things in life, and it opens doors for you that you didn't know were open before.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way I ask, because with kids, they can usually pinpoint something that makes them happy.
Yeah.
And so then it's about taking that one thing and showing them how expansive it can be.
Right.
And how many doors it can open up, because they may not have ever seen themselves sitting in this chair doing a podcast, but because I told them that's what got me here. Now it's like, oh, okay, I can do the same thing. And so for me, it's just really turning it back on and connecting with them and finding out what makes them happy. Because, happiness, I guess, can be fleeting, but I guess maybe the other thing is what brings you joy.
Yeah.
As opposed to what makes you happy.
About peace a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk a lot about the process too, like in sports. It's not the final score, it's the process. Are you getting better? You can lose a game and get better.
Absolutely.
Right? You can win and get worse.
Yep.
And I heard that on a podcast. Someone said, well, if you're a great wrestler and all you're doing is wrestling people that are terrible, you're going to be undefeated, but you're not going to get any better. If you go to practice every day and get your tail kicked, you may lose, but you're going to get better. So I think that process thing permeates in the app because it's curriculum and learning and education. And I think if we can fight against this, I go back to this reductionist mindset where we just take a pill, fix everything. It's like you don't fix mental health, you improve it. Yeah. You don't fix it. You never get over it. I every day, if I deviate from the routine that I have, and when I do, I told you earlier, when I don't work out, my back starts hurting. Yeah. Well, your body's smart. It's going to tell you where you need to work. And if your mind is not doing well, then work on your mind. Turn off, what's it called? TikTok. I was going to say Twitter, but kids don't, that age, they're not on Twitter. I mean, if your mind is hurting, well, then do the things, turn off the things that are hurting your mind. If you're not feeling well, cut your sugar intake down. If you're not sleeping well, shut your screens off 30 minutes before you go to bed. I'm not going to say it's not that hard, but we overthink things so much. And it's good. Mental health is a process, and it's daily, and nobody has ever conquered it and won. I fight every day. Just as of 2 years ago, I had a really dark time on Christmas Eve after my wife passed where, I don't know how much I can get into on your show, but I considered the ultimate thing. I considered ending my life, and to the point where I was seconds from it. And the scary thing, Kenyon, was I was comfortable with it. Wow. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I never want to go back there. So when I tell my boys and they see me running at Saturday in the morning and, Dad, why are you running? I don't want to die. It's like, it's an obsession,
we laugh,
but a good one.
It's one of those things that I laugh because
you have to.
It's that simple too, right? It's like understanding where you are, but much like your body, your mind, your spirit, it has to be in alignment. There has to be in alignment there. And so, we snicker at it, but I snicker because I think sometimes it's that simple.
We have to.
Yeah.
You have to almost laugh at the struggle in a way, because if you don't, then it becomes a struggle.
Yeah.
And you've heard me say this, but Viktor Frankl said in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which I think is the best, one of the best books. I know what your favorite book is, but one of the best books out there, Man's Search for Meaning, is tremendous. And he said, suffering is my opportunity. And I read that, I thought, wow, man, that's a tattoo. Suffering is my opportunity. It's I was wallowing in pity all the time. Well, woe is me. Why did this happen to me? Blah, blah, blah. And so I started thinking to myself, well, maybe suffering is a choice. Yeah. Suffering can be an option. So it just kind of tricked my brain. And, again, if I can do that, you can do it. Why can't we empower our kids to start thinking and reframing this way? Is not everything being a victim mindset. Because, we do live in this victim world, Kenyon.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do. And they're blaming their coaches for not playing. And what did Michael Jordan's mom say? Remember that? She said something like, he came home complaining because he didn't play. And she said, well, you got to get better or something like that.
You got to work hard.
Yeah.
You got to get better. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. That's the way.
And that's the GOAT's mom, It's like.
Yeah.
And Tiger's dad was that way. He was the same way. It's like, if you want to play in these courses or you're not allowed to play on, well, then just beat the guys. Beat them.
Absolutely.
And they'll let you on.
Yeah. It sounds simple, but we know it's not. But, as we wrap up, where can our audience find the app? Where, websites, things like that? Like where do we send people to check out Brightn?
Yeah, the right now it's live on the App Store. So we're on Android, Apple, every aspect of usage you can find it. But just put in Brightn Wellness. We have like 15 5-star ratings, so we don't move up the ladder until we get more. So if you like it, be kind, leave a comment, be honest with yourself. And then, Brightn Wellness, Brightn app. I think Carson just changed it the other day, so not a good time for me to tell what our site is. But Brightn Wellness is the and we'll give you all the connections that you can put on the screen as well. So we're, like I said, we're excited. We're building it out. We need input, but so far the feedback's been really good, and I'm encouraged that kids want to get better. And when I talk to kids about this, they're excited. It's like if we can get mental health exciting. Yeah. That's like the first thing we have to do and not make it like clinical. Yeah. We want to be credible, but not clinical. Yeah. And there's so many apps out there now where you fill out an assessment and then like they'll tell you how messed up you are. Yeah. Yeah. I already know that. I don't need some app to tell me I'm already messed up. We need to tell kids how great they are. Yeah. We need to tell them all the good things they're doing. And by the way, maybe you got some sadness going on. We got some resources for you. Maybe you need to lose a little weight. Maybe you need to sleep a little better. Maybe you need to quit drinking, stop your vaping. We don't want to judge them, right? Yeah. That doesn't work. But if we can just fill these kids up, it's the biggest generation ever, man. There's a lot of really good things going on with these kids. And I'm happy you're a part of it and your family and all the people watching, that everything you can say, even if it's one word of encouragement to a kid, you never know, that could be that kid that would have been that 14-year-old that I heard about. That stuff has to stop. Yeah.
The one thing is that we need a world where people are pouring into each other. And I think, what Jeff has found on this journey is he's met people that have continued to pour into him. And their belief in him, their pouring into him has led him to this point with Brightn. And I think that's what we have to do. Much easier to break somebody down than to build somebody up. But the thing is, if we build each other up, one, we become a stronger society. Two, we start putting a dent in the problem that's at hand. And I think Brightn is one of the things that can get us there. So, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Obviously, everything you do, super important to me, to my family. We're in it to win it with you. And like I said, we just hope that we can make a dent and some of the things that plague not only our state, our country, but our world. And so,
can I say one last word?
Yes, go ahead.
I have to say one more thing. The whole initiative with Brightn is a very special meaning to us and to the Murray family. When our son Seth died from fentanyl, 3 weeks later, his daughter was born. I don't talk about it a lot. She's 6 right now, and her name is Brightn. And every time I see her, I say, Brightn, you brighten my life. And so our goal is to brighten young minds, brighten young lives. And so, Kenyon, thank you very much. I can never repay you, but I'm so grateful to have you guys part of this new journey, this new chapter of our life, the Johnston family. And, with that, just thank you for everybody for your support and participation. And again, very grateful to be here.
Well, thanks. Once again, thanks, Jeff, for coming on the show. Remember, you can always find our podcast on our YouTube page, the Talk About Network, Apple, Spotify, the iHeartRadio platform, Spreaker. Remember to go there, subscribe, give us a like so you know when a new podcast drops. I'm Kenyon Murray. Until next time. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio productions for local businesses. Not only that, but they also produce a number of podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting storylinemultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.